Hi Bio4 and welcome to Muscles of the Anterior Thigh and Leg. I'm going to go through the names of these muscles with the pictures, and if you have the list in front of you, it'll help you because you'll see the spelling. You'll see it on my slide too, but it's helpful to have that list in front of you. So let's start out with the Sartorius. So the Sartorius sort of spells S, S for Sartorius, and it's going to come around from the hip down into the tibia. Here you see it on the cadaver, and then here you can see it just on the bone. So that's a nice way of looking at it also. And what Sartorius does is flexes, abducts, and laterally rotates the thigh exactly at that hip joint. So you really need to know one of these for the test, one of the actions for every single muscle that we look at. So look at this. This looks kind of nice. Do you notice that action? We're going to do it again. Up, around, and over so that you can sort of cross your leg over the other one. So that's going to be flexing, laterally rotating the hip because it's got that rotation here at the hip joint, but it also flexes at the knee. Correct? So it does a lot of different things, this muscle. And it can do that because it goes, from lateral all the way to medial, and it crosses more than one joint. So it's going to affect more than one joint. Sartorius. Next one, iliopsoas. The P is silent, iliopsoas, and this really is the combination of two muscles, the iliacus and the psoas major. So we're going to just look at it in this section here, and we're just joining them together and calling them the iliopsoas. And this one is important for hip flexion. It's a really important hip flexor. It's one hip flexor that gives soccer players lots of trouble because of overuse, and this becomes very sore here. So let's see the action. So that's to flex the hip. So some students confuse the flexion and the extension. So when you flex, you bring two bones closer together. When you extend, you bring them further apart. So if you're thinking of your forearm again, with your palm up on a table, bring it close to your cheek. You're flexing because those bones are now coming closer together, and you're extending when you bring them apart. Okay, rectus femoris. So now we're going to start the quads, the quadriceps femoris, and that's going to be made up of four muscles. And the first one of those is the rectus femoris. It goes rectus, which means straight down the front of the femur. So it's rectus femoris. And here we'll see the action. So it extends the knee, right? And also flexes the hip. But let's see that again. Extending the knee. Good. Let's move on to a second one from the quadriceps. And that's vastus lateralis. So that name vastus is going to repeat a couple times. Lateralis, because it's on the lateral side. And very visible laterally, you're going to see the other one that's medial. So let's look at an action for that. So extension at the knee again, extension at the knee. Next one is vastus intermedius. Vastus intermedius, which is in the middle here of the lateralis, of the vastus lateralis, and the vastus medialis. So students get confused and they want to call it the vastus intermedialis, and it's not. It's the vastus intermedius. And like the other quadriceps, what it also does is extends at the knee. Good. Intermedius, and that leaves one more, and that is on the medial side, really visible there, vastus medialis, and guess what? extends at the knee. Okay, so really nice to be able to see, though. Then rectus femoris is going to be straight down the middle on top. I'm going to have to move that out of the way a little bit to see the vastus lateralis, move it a bit out of the way that way to see the vastus medialis, and under it would be the vastus intermedius. Just to recap there. Okay, moving on to lateral thigh, you have the tensor of the fascia latae. So you have this IT band that goes here. You can see it down, 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 down here. And that IT band has at the base of it here a muscle that's going to be able to pull on that. So the action there, it sort of abducts and stabilizes the hip. So there's quite a few actions here. Flexion of the femur, it does that. It abducts the femur. Rotation, and also stabilizes the knee because it's attached onto this fascia lata, which is again the IT band, which gives runners a lot of problems for, again, overuse. Okay, that was lateral thigh. We're going to move on to medial thigh now. And very medially, the most medial muscle that you can actually see, look at it, this is a really nice diagram of it, is the gracilis. Gracilis. And it just sort of flops away like that, separate from the other muscles. And let's look at actions. It adducts the thigh. Remember, to adduct is to add towards the body, so it brings it towards it. It also flexes the knee. It also flexes the knee. We remember it always in the anatomy lab like the graceful muscle. Okay, adductor. So we're going to have an adductor longus and an adductor magnus. So take a look first here. Adductor longus, and now look at this. Adductor magnus, and sort of inferior to it. It's also a bigger muscle. So let's go back. Look at the size here of this muscle and where you're seeing it, adductor longus, and now compare it to a much bigger muscle called adductor magnus. It's sort of further down towards the knee is where you would see it. But let's go back to the longus and look at this muscle here and see what the action is. Adduction of the thigh, right? You can do those exercises of putting your leg lying on your side and leg up, leg down, leg up, leg down, and you see how those adductors are working hard when you do that. Okay, that's the longus. And then we're going to look at again at the adductor magnus. Much chunkier muscle, big muscle, and guess what it does? It causes adduction of the thigh again, adduction. All of them are ADD, adduction. Good. Okay. Now we're going to go down to leg muscles. So those were all thigh. We're going down to lower leg now. And lateral leg, if we look at it in lateral view here, we have the fibularis longus. And here it is on the cadaver, fibularis longus. So it's more orange, highlighted in orange here. And this fibularis is responsible for plantar flexion of the foot. Plantar flexion. It also can invert the foot. Fibularis longus. In the anterior leg, we have extensor digitorum longus. So now highlighted here, extensor. Now it says digitorum. So if it says digitorum, you know that it's coming to the digits, right? Longus, because you're going to have an extensor digitorum in the arm. So this is extensor digitorum longus. And here you can see it, and with its tendons coming over to the toes. It comes to toe 2 through 5. It does not come to the big toe. And the action of the extensor digitorum is just that extension of the toes. And also dorsiflex. Okay, extensor hallucis longus is its extensor hallucis longus. Here you can see it. It sort of hides under the digitorum, the extensor digitorum longus. So it's here and then hiding underneath, but it's in orange. And guess what? If it's hallucis, it's coming to the big toe. So it can dorsiflect right at the ankle, and it also extends the big toe. And last in that group of the anterior leg is the tibialis anterior. So most anterior, coming up straight up against the bone here. Do you notice? It sort of borders your shin here. So if you're, going to your own leg and feel it right now, and you feel the shin, and then lateral to that, you're feeling the tibialis anterior. And it also dorsiflects the foot and also inverts the foot. Tibialis anterior. I want to show you something interesting if I backtrack a little bit to remember them. Look at the first letter here is an F, fibularis, E, extensor digitorum, E, extensor hallucis, and T, tibialis. So that spells feet, F-E-E-T. So when you're trying to remember in order what those are, you can think of that, feet. That spells the first letter of each one of those four muscles. All right. So that is the last slide here of the anterior thigh muscles. Now you get to work on remembering these and remembering what the actions of these are. Thanks, guys. Bye.